everybody's heard of Soundgarden, and
Hmm.
they've been around for a while. They formed in late '84 or early '85. That's interesting. Megan
84,
Jasper,
yeah.
yeah, around mid
Yeah.
'80s. Megan Jasper of Sub Pop told you, "quote The first time I saw Soundgarden, they gave me a migraine headache, so I knew it was good stuff." I think
Right.
one of the highlights of the book has to be this chapter. It offers some insight into the band's very early days. Can you
Mm.
talk about some of the standout comments you include in the book regarding Soundgarden? Chris Cornell was on drums
Hmm.
early on. Actually, he did back and forth vocals, drums. I think like half the set split.
Yes.
He did
Yeah, what
that,
it
and
was people maybe to like the average person doesn't know that Soundgarden originally was a trio. It was Kim Thayil on guitar, Hiro Yamamoto on bass, and then Chris not only sang, he also played drums. So it was like a Phil Collins type
yeah,
thing
and
going
like an
on.
artsy band is what one of the
Yes,
guys said.
exactly. And I forget who in the band likened early Soundgarden to sounding kind of like Bauhaus. They were like more Bauhausy or like Joy Division-ish. They were a little more gothy at the time. If you listen to on the Screaming Life album, there's a song called Entering. If you listen to that, the beginning of the song actually sounds just like Bela Lugosi's Dead. If you listen to both those
Oh
songs
yeah,
side by side. So yeah, Soundgarden early on was definitely more of like a goth punk type band. But then similar to the other bands I was just mentioning, there was definitely a metal element to that what they were doing, like Sabbathy type stuff. And then also when Black Flag started slowing down their punk to kind of a slower crawl, that was also a big influence on what later became Soundgarden.
yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. Soundgarden was a very, very important band. And as far as this book, I think there may be more about early Soundgarden in this book than in Grunge is Dead. So if you're a fan of the early Soundgarden, which there's not that much information on, this book definitely has some pretty cool info in it. So
Yeah,
you can
that
definitely learn a lot about early Soundgarden, which to me is kind of a fascinating era of the band because that's when they were the first Seattle band to get signed to a major from that group of bands to get signed to a major label. Because I was going to say the first Seattle band to get signed to a major label. But that's not true because Heart was from Seattle.
right. Yep.
Jimi Hendrix was from Seattle too, so they weren't the first, but they were the first grunge band. And then Mother Love Bone would have been the second band to get signed to a major label.
Now, Nirvana, here's another one that's interesting that I got from this book. Kurt Cobain's supposed first ever public performance, Brown Cow. When was this, and
Yes.
what did Kurt do at this performance?
It was supposedly like a spoken word type thing where it was kind of improv and him just reading, I think, over music is all it was. And yeah, I don't think there's any audio. And what's funny is Nirvana is like one of the most bootlegged bands. If you go on YouTube, there's like countless bootleg shows and stuff. But to the best of my knowledge, I haven't dug that deep, but I never heard of anyone having any brown cow bootlegs. So that's I'm wondering if anything really exists.
You talked to Kurt's girlfriend, Tracy Miranda, and she talks about
Yes,
seeing Nirvana play their
yep,
first show, April '87.
yep. She actually, people don't realize that she is the photographer that took the picture that is on the cover of Nirvana Bleach.
Okay.
That is her photo. Yeah, and she was a great interview. She told some really good stories again about the early days of Nirvana, what it was like seeing them, what also it was like living with Kurt. She tells a good story about they had these pet. I forget it was. I think it was rats. Pet. It was. I was going to say rabbit, but I'm pretty sure it was pet rats that they kept in a big cage that was multi-leveled or something like that. And it seemed like they were very big pet lovers.
Yeah.
Is from what I could gather from that.
Yeah. How about Nirvana playing to like, what, two, three people? Jonathan Poneman of Sub Pop
Yes.
talked about that. It was just him, the bartender, and I think that was, I think that was
Yeah,
it.
that
Like
was probably
two, three people.
it.
I mean, that
Yeah.
was the thing too, that paints a picture of Nirvana
Mm,
when they first started, weren't really that good. But then they got so good so fast.
right.
That's what a lot
Yeah,
of people
I
talk
know
about.
Mark Arm from Mudhoney is honest in the book. He says the first time he saw it, I think his quote is honestly, they really weren't good when he first saw them. It was very
Right.
noisy and very loud, but yeah, they got very good very, very fast.